It's a sunny day at ABC Dental. How may I help you? Is that how your phone sounds sometimes? You need some help? We're going to help you today on Marketing Chairside.
Welcome to the Marketing Chairside podcast by Pro Impressions Marketing, where the team covers a variety of dental marketing ideas to help you attract more new patients in the quantity and quality you need to grow your practice.
So that was Laura Nelson from Front Office Rocks, my guest on the show today, who is going to whip us into shape. Laura, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks. I'm using my acting skills today already. I love it.
Yep. We've got a great store and show. Yes, we've got a great store and show for our listeners. We're going to be talking about the biggest problems that we have when we answer the phones and giving some tips for how to make the most out of the phone leads that we get. So, Laura, let's start with the most common mistakes that people can make when they've got the phone ringing.
The first thing I would say is respecting the phone, because we get so busy in the front office. We have a million things to do. And I actually have heard a lot of dentists who give the advice to their team members, and I 100% disagree with this. The person in front of you or what's going on in the office is more important than the phone. And I disagree with that 100%, because we spend lots of money to make that phone ring. We have to remember that our patients are calling to a place that they don't necessarily want to go to, right? They don't love drills and needles and dental offices. So if we're already giving them the excuse that either it's not important or I'll call another office or we're too busy for them, it's starting off on the wrong foot. So the first thing is respecting the phone. The second thing I would say is from the very first day of an employee coming to work for you, the training that we do around the phones, because so many times we take somebody brand new to the front office. Can you answer the phones? And they're like, yeah, I can answer the phones. And technically they can. They can answer a phone, but can they answer your phones? Are they trained for your practice? Do they know what procedures you do? Do they know how to handle insurance? Do they know how to handle how much is something? And so what we do is we take a brand new employee who's nervous, not trained, and we put them on the phones first, which is the worst thing, because again, we're paying money to make those phones ring. So that would be the second thing that I think is the biggest thing. And then lastly, and I could go on 20 things, but I won't go on forever here. Lastly, it's just a matter of training all of our team members to understand the purpose of those calls and why the patients ask the questions they ask, and recognizing that, again, we put drills and needles in people's mouths. They're not super excited about it. They don't know what questions to ask. The longer we're in dentistry, the more we can get beat down. We can get, arrows in our back. We can have patients get upset. We can have insurances decline things. And the more that happens, the more we sort of get into I call it the dental box. And so we have to regularly be sort of picking our team up out of the dental box and bringing them back to the business box, because it is tough. It is. We get a lot of tough questions on the phone. We get a lot of tough questions for patients, and we've got to re-energize our team on a regular basis to remember the importance of those phone calls.
I feel like we could just take what you just said and slow it down for the rest of the episode, and that's good. We'd have value there. But speaking of values, I heard you say something that when I first heard it blew my mind, just that the patient doesn't know the questions to ask. But that doesn't mean that they don't value things that they would ask questions about if they knew how to ask questions about, like, does your training matter? And is that going to improve my experience, or does your professionalism make me more comfortable when I actually come to your office? Like, they're not going to ask those questions, but they need to know the answers, because if they're going to be a patient at your office, they probably have those values. And that front desk person's job is start the process of recovering those. One of the things that I feel like I see, being phone aware, I think is absolutely huge. But even just remembering that you're a human being speaking to another human being when that phone rings, how valuable is it to ask the patient's name, and when should that come up?
Well, I would, and what you said, I totally agree with. I want to back up, because you mentioned a few things there which are amazing. So first of all, the reason that I even started Front Office Rocks is because when I got into this industry, the only phone training systems that were out there were very script based, like reading a script, answering the calls and doing it a certain way. And I do think we need to train our team members, but I don't love scripts, because when you read off a script, your attention's more on the script than the person. And like you said, We need a human talking to a human. And so we need our team members to be confident in how to answer the questions and handle the phone calls, but we needed to say from their words. We need them to be focused on the patient, not the script. The second thing about that you were talking about is that patients, when they call in, most of the time, they ask, do you take my insurance, or how much is something? Maybe they'll ask, do you have evening or weekend hours? And really that's because those are two different topics that they're focused on when they call. They want to know about their insurance and they want to know about their pocketbook, right? Because that's all they really know. Our patients don't know about their dental needs. They don't know the questions they should be asking. And so they ask insurance, or they ask a money, or evening or weekends means I don't have to take time off of work. I don't lose money if I can come to you during those times. So our team members, we could get really frustrated and be like, oh, all the patients are worried about insurance, or everybody's worried about money. Or we can understand that's all they know to ask, right? Think about something where you called in you didn't know what to ask, and you call and you're like, I'm not really sure exactly what I'm supposed to be asking, but how much is a consultation or whatever. That's all they're doing, is they don't know what to ask. And so it's important that we realize that that's what they should be asking, like you said, is, when was the last time your doctor went to CE? Where did they graduate in their class? Is there any lawsuits against your dentist? They should be asking, what technology do you have? But they don't know. And so if we let the call be directed by the patient and not understand that's all they know, they're going to ask the insurance question or the money question. We're going to answer it and they're going to hang up. And we shouldn't let our patients decide on if they're going to come to us based on those questions. They should not make a decision on insurance or money without us at least trying to get them to understand why they should come to our practice. And so we really need to take control of the phone call when they ask those questions and not just answer them, because that's leaving the patient in control of the call versus the team member.
I don't know. You're a trainer, so you probably are comfortable doing this. I love to do this, and my team hates it because it makes them super uncomfortable. But can we do some role playing?
Yeah, actually, and I'm glad you bring that up, because role playing, I do this when I speak and when we're in audience, and all the time people are rolling their eyes. Doctors have to go to the bathroom, like whatever. It sucks. I'm just going to say it is, like, even now, I'm like, you're putting me on the spot. I can feel my heart pressure raise, right? But I'd rather do it with you, or in a safe place with my team, or with with employees, because then when the patient asks, because you're retraining your subconscious of like how to answer these. Exactly. So I love it, even though I felt my heart palpitate. I'm like, oh, really? Here I go. I hope I do well. I hope I do okay.
I figure you got all this memorized. So, I'm going to make it even worse. I'm going to be the patient. Okay. That's person. So ring. I'm calling Nelson Family Dentistry. Hi, I'm wondering, do you accept Bluestone Insurance Company?
We actually work with that insurance. We're not considered in network for it, and I'll explain what that means in a little bit. But let me ask you a couple questions first. First of all, what's your name?
Oh, I'm Jonathan.
Nice to meet you, Jonathan. Welcome to our practice. Can I find out, how did you hear about us?
Well, I just hopped on the internet and typed in family dentist near me.
Okay, cool. So you live in the area?
Yes, ma'am.
That's awesome. So why are you looking for a new dentist, Jonathan?
Well, honestly, I'm not exactly new to the area. I moved here a couple of years ago, but I haven't been to the dentist. And, I chipped a front tooth, and I just figure I got to get the whole works fixed on and updated.
Awesome. Well, we would love to welcome you here. You actually picked one of the best practices in our whole state. So no worries that you haven't been to the dentist in years. That's okay. It happens. We understand. So again, my name is Laura. What I'm going to do is just get a little information from you. I want to find out, the time that works best for you to schedule an appointment. And then, like I said, we can go through all your insurance stuff. So why don't you give me an idea? When would you like to come in for an appointment? And then I'll kind of go from there. So what I would say is, at this point, we build a little rapport with them. We find out why they're calling. We start to bring them into when are they going to schedule an appointment. And then I'm going to explain how the insurance works. So what I did and what I train on is that I don't say no in the beginning, because I want to get the conversation going. I want to build rapport with the patient. And then you can handle the insurance question however you handle it in your practice. We're not in network, but we take out a network benefits, or we'll verify your insurance. We have assignment. Whatever you say is fine, because we want you to be real and truthful with the patient, but just don't do it so much in the beginning, because we want Jonathan to fall in love with the practice so that he's like, you know what? Yeah, that's great. No matter if you're in network or not. So that's kind of the flow I would suggest of like taking a patient, the new patient through the appointment or the first call.
How do you feel about, we have a lot of patients that have Blue
Yeah.
Stone insurance.
What I teach is that we should always say yes or something positive. So, yes, do you take that insurance? Yes. Do you have evening hours? Yes, it depends, or yes, or something positive, right? I used to say, always say yes. So, if somebody says, do you take that insurance? Yes, we have a lot of patients with that insurance. Yes, we have, right? But somebody said, when they say, do you have weekend or evening or no, what was the question? Yes doesn't work for every question. I can't think off the top of my head what it was. So it's, or something positive, right? So just what we're trying to do is we're trying to take control of the call. And if you say no or something negative, I mean, think about that. If you're like, hey, do you want to get lunch? I'm like, no. And then I'm like, wait. Well, I've already cut that connection with you, right?
Right.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to connect with the person so that then I can control the call of asking the questions I want to ask. Then we can handle the question. So just yes or something positive, whatever works for you in your practice, in your words.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
I know you said that scripts are something that you steer people away from. How can you train team to think on their feet and to handle these types of things? I mean, one like giant nugget you dropped earlier was don't have the newest person in the team handle the phones. They're learning a bazillion things at that point. And so training on the phones while learning the practice, I could totally see that being a train wreck.
Yeah.
But like, let's start with this. Is everyone trainable? Or is there just some
No.
fit problems? Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of scripts when somebody's answering the phones. Now, I do think that you have to give your employees, when you're training them, the ideas of things they should say. So I'm really big on explaining why. Why do we want to do something? So like I explained, the reason I want to say why or yes or something positive is because, and I explain like, this is why, right? So I want to make sure that the team members know why. We can give them different ways to say things, right? So like you could say, we work with a lot of insurances. We have a lot of patients that have insurance. We will help you verify your insurance. You can say it in your words. So you can give script ideas, but then the person needs to internalize it. And that is really what the difference is, because when I'm on the phone, if I got my piece of paper and I'm like, yes, we work with your insurance, right? It doesn't feel real. My example of this is like somebody who answers the phone in New York City is going to answer the phone really different. They're going to be efficient. They're going to be quick. That's how they are, versus somebody in the South. You know, somebody in the South is going to be, bless your heart, welcome to our practice. And I want the employee to be able to bring that energy to the phone call. So, and I don't remember what your second question was, but that was where I just want to make sure I was clear. Like you do have to train. Oh, and then my other thought is then you have to practice, because if it doesn't sound natural, if it sounds forced, one of my examples on this is I've used to do mystery calls into offices, and I called an office and the girl answered the phone. It's a sunny day at ABC Dental. How can I help you? And I was like, okay, I don't think it's very sunny at ABC Dental, but I think really honestly, either she was having a bad day or she was like, this is the dumbest script I've ever had to say, you know? And so that comes across to the patient. So if your team isn't authentic and real, the patients are going to feel that energy. So I forgot what your other question was, but that's my thought on script and training.
Well, how do you know if the person in the front desk position, the person answering the phone, is the right fit and is going to be trainable to be successful if they're having troubles with it?
I'm a huge fan of hiring people in the front that not necessarily have to have dental experience. I'm not saying having dental experience isn't great. That's amazing. But many times we are so focused on getting somebody with dental experience that we hire people who bring bad dental habits into our practice. I would rather hire somebody, especially answering phones, that just has the right attitude and the right energy. And so that's a whole nother discussion we could do in the future of just like hiring and finding the right people. But the biggest thing is I want somebody there. It's almost like a grid, right? Like this is somebody who's got knowledge or no knowledge on the topic that you want. And then this is no willingness to learn and energy versus willingness to learn and growth. I would rather, of course, up here in the square, knowledge and attitude. That's a rock star. That's amazing. If we can get somebody who is willing to learn and attitude, that's great, right? But if I can't get the rock star, I'd rather hire somebody whose willingness to learn, who has the right personality, and I'll teach them the dental versus somebody who's over here who knows a lot but isn't trainable.
Right.
Isn't willing to like grow and learn and do better. So really it really has to do with where do they fall on the spectrum there.
Yeah, especially when you end up telling people doctor needs to see you in order to tell you the answer to XYZ question. Well, you don't have to be the dentist to answer the phone and say, we absolutely help people with that problem all the time. I couldn't tell you exactly on your, case, but I'd love to get you in for an appointment.
You actually bring up a good point too. One of my pet peeves that I hear a lot is when an office or a patient will call in and say like, do you do implants? And technically maybe you don't place implants, but you restore implants, right? You may send a patient out to a specialist and then they come back. You can help a patient. We don't even know if the patient needs an implant. Maybe they need a bridge. Maybe they have 2 teeth on the other side that are failing. Like we don't even know. We can't diagnose over the phone. So if your team members, and in their mind, especially a new employee, like it's not on the list. Nope, we don't do implants. Nope, we don't do implants. Like get the patient in, right? You can help the patient regardless. You're going to restore the implant. Maybe you're going to do bridge. We don't even know what the patient needs, right? So you're not clinical over the phone. Your job is to get the patient as best as you can to come in to the appointment so that we can clinically see what the patient needs.
Absolutely. So what are some top tips, like triaging kind of thing, for the techniques that can get you the biggest results, just the low-lying fruit for improving phone intake?
Well, that's easy. The number one thing is answer the freaking phone. Answer the phone. Answer the phone. Answer the phone. There's so many, and I'm sure you guys do this and you know this kind of information, but there's so many ways now to make sure your phones are answered and to track what's going on your phones. And I know I've been in dentistry for over 20 years. And I remember in the beginning, like, I don't want anyone recording my calls. I don't want anyone, but now the information is so invaluable to us or so priceless to us. So the first thing is answer your phones. There's something like 91 calls a month are missed, and maybe even better statistics, but just not even answered. So that's the first thing. The second thing is at lunch, we find when you look at your metrics, most calls come in between 11 and 2. Yet that's when we send our best people at the front office to go to lunch and we bring up a dental assistant or we let it go to voicemail or whatever. Whether they're new patients or they're calling to schedule the appointment they've been meaning to schedule or they're calling to pay a bill, it doesn't matter. We need our best people answering the phones during that time. So that would be it. The next thing I would say is also cross-training, because not only, depending on your team, maybe you got one person in the front and they are, doing consults, checking patients in and out. If your dental assistants or hygienists are helping out, they need to be trained on the phones too, right? Because every single phone call is a potential new patient phone call. And we should treat every phone call that way. Even if it's not a new patient phone call, that's just great customer service for our current patients. And that is one of the biggest problems we have as a backdoor problem. We're all about getting the new patients in, but we're losing new, existing patients out the back door. And that's because we're dropping the ball on customer service. So we really should be making sure we're elevating that when it comes to the phones.
Well, Laura, if they don't have the time to leave me a voicemail, then I don't think that they belong in my office. What do you think of that? What do you think?
Well, then you should probably just make sure that you have enough patients you're keeping in the practice, because you're definitely you're not bringing the new patients in.
Yeah, the voicemail thing is such a it's like shallow rocks beneath the surface of the water that dental offices are just not aware of how bad voicemail, phone trees. I just see those as marketing killers because people don't respond well to them. We definitely listen to our members' phone calls because we want to know what's happening at the bottom part of the funnel, that we need them at the top of the funnel for sure. And the bottom of the funnel, and you're describing as an hourglass of thing
Yep.
where it's running out the sides. But that's absolutely critical. I feel like phone tracking, one of the missing pieces that a lot of dental offices don't understand is that you need to look beyond the surface statistics, and you need to be listening to the calls to understand what those statistics actually mean. For example, a lot of phone tracking systems have a metric for answered calls. It's just answered. But what they don't know is that doesn't mean that your office talked to them. That means that the call connected, and it could still go to voicemail, but it would still show as answered. If you're not listening to your calls and tagging them and then looking at statistics, your statistics could be lying to you. Speaking of metrics, did you know that Pro Impressions Marketing has a marketing portal called ProView Analytics? Our members enjoy a comprehensive list of services for their marketing, and they have the accountability of call tracking and metrics that prove whether or not the marketing is turning into business for them. So if that sounds like something that you might need, hop online and go to proimpressionsgroup.com and schedule a no pressure consultation and we'll chat.
Right. And the other thing I would say too is I have two thoughts on that. One is I'm thankful I was never really trained clinically. I went in the back once and assisted, and I gave a guy a hickey with a suction on the inside of his cheek and had to call the husband or the wife and say it was me with the suction. So they never let me in the back. I can turn over rooms and I could sterilize, but because what happens is a lot of times we have people in the front who are cross-trained and they get pulled to the back. Quick turnover room, do this impression, like do what? Well, the problem is every time we pull somebody to the back for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that's a potential 2 or 3 phone calls during that time that we're missing. And so it's hard to put a value on that. What if nobody calls? What if they'll leave a voicemail? But we just pulled a good person who could have converted that person into a new patient so that you can have impressions board, right? Or whatever. So that's one of the biggest things that I see happening in that regard is that this is an important role. Like we are more than, and I'm going to actually challenge you a little bit. We're more than the front desk. We're not a piece of furniture, right? We are front office rock stars for a reason. We are the first and last impression of every appointment, and so we need to realize that we are valuable, and so does the team. And one of the other things I was going to say is I recommend with the call answering recordings that sometimes doctors will say, well, I don't have enough time to listen to them, or, I don't want my team to think I'm whatever. So if that's the case, I think that the team members need to learn and respect the ability to get better. And one of the things that I would suggest to offices is if the doctor doesn't have enough time to listen to the calls, have the team members bring, here's the best call of the week and here's my worst call of the week. Or here's one I want you to listen to and here's one I really don't want you to listen to, but what could I do to get better on this call? Because I think that there are sometimes you get off of a phone call in the front and we're like, that was amazing. I did so good. And then sometimes, and I'm guilty of it, I'm on a phone call and I'm looking around like, am I getting punked? Because this phone call is going so badly, but we're dealing with people, right? And so I need to go, okay, well, this call went badly. Why did it go badly? And what could I do better next time? Whether that's more training or need to get an answer on something I don't know, but having the team members involved in a pat on the back, but also the willingness to learn, I think is a great way to incorporate that into the practice. It's a sunny day at ABC Dental. How may I help you? Have that kind of attitude on your front phones? Well, that's what we work on with Front Office Rocks. We have an online training website for your team to become rock stars on the phones and everything having to do with the front desk. Check us out at frontofficerocks.com.
Well, and listening to calls together and doing that conversation is going to make sure that everyone's aligned. And that I see that all the time too. When we'll have a report call, what we call it just like a sync up with the office team. We work with a lot of dental sleep practices. And it happened this week where an office was saying they didn't want a certain type of sleep call. And we said, well, here's the thing. We hear these calls and someone called and said, are you a sleep clinic? And the person answering the phone assumed they knew what that person was saying. You're looking for an overnight sleep study with a bunch of electrodes connected to your head, and you probably are a trucker and need a certain type of thing. Assumptions galore. And we said, well, wouldn't you be best to ask, what does the sleep clinic mean to you? How can we help you? And learn more about that.
Yeah, and actually, that's a really great point. You know, we shouldn't judge our patients over the phone. We shouldn't diagnose them and we shouldn't judge them. We shouldn't judge our patients at all. We have no idea. We've all had the patient who walks in and you're like, they'll not be able to afford this treatment. And then they bring cash the next day. So we shouldn't judge. We're their healthcare providers. We should be providing healthcare to them. And so many times we do have that problem answering the phone where we judge that they don't have money or they don't really care or they're not a good patient for our practice. You don't know. Your job is to get them in the door, right? And just like you can't judge, the patient might say, do I need a crown? You don't know. We don't know. Maybe in our practice, they need a filling or maybe they need an implant and a crown. We don't know. You can't do that over the phone. Our only job on the phones is to build rapport with that patient and do our best to try to get them to schedule.
So you are talking at the AADOM meeting, the American.
Okay, I got it. I'm going to give you a trick. It's ADOM. So nobody calls it AADOM. It's ADOM. And it's the American Association of Dental Office Management. Mm-hmm. And it's one of my favorites. So you can tell I'm a groupie. I'm part of the tribe.
I love it. So a dentist is maybe they don't know about ADOM. They didn't know it was an ADOM.
They didn't know it was an ADOM. Actually, funny story. It is AADOM. It's AADOM, and we have a lot of swag we buy there, just like all of us in our groups. And ours is very, they're glittery and stuff. And the first year I went, I was so excited because this is my tribe. And I went back to the practice and I had an AADOM shirt on, and people are like, ADOM? Like, you know your things, right? So it's ADOM.
If a listener has not heard of ADOM, has never attended ADOM, but they're like, this gal knows what she's talking about and I want some more of what she's cooking, sell them on that for me. Should they come? Should they just send an office manager? How should this work?
Yeah. So ADOM was started probably 20 years ago. I found it, I started in 2012. I'm dating myself here. And ADOM was started with the idea of dental office managers because many times dental office managers kind of feel like we're on our own island. We're not the team, but we're also not the owner. And so I remember the first time I came or went to ADOM, I walked in and I was like, these are my people. All the speakers have to do with management and things around the dental practice, administration of the practice. All the vendors and sponsors there are the same. Many times we go to our conferences and they're so clinically focused, but there's not a lot for the front office team. So ADOM really filled a hole or a niche with that. I found ADOM, and that's actually how I grew Front Office Rocks, is I went there and I saw the great speakers and the consultants and I learned so much. But one of the things I thought was missing was team training, the actual, brand new receptionist. How do we answer the phones? And so that's where I built Front Office Rocks. I got lifted at ADOM and built my company. ADOM's amazing conference. It's one of the best conferences. It's dentalmanagers.com if you haven't been there. And it's AADOM is our acronym. And it sells out every year. I have to be honest with you. I don't even know if there's tickets this year or not. The vendors sell out immediately every year because it's so good and interactive for the sponsors that are there. In the beginning, it used to be just dental office managers, but now I would say there's a good 20% of doctors coming now because they're leaning more into, how can I make my practice more efficient? How can I, make my team culture better? How can I? And that's the focus of ADOM. I'm speaking, I joke around 42 times this year. I'm not. I think I'm speaking 3 times this year, but that I'm a, huge advocate of definitely going there. And actually, I finally just got to announce yesterday a new partnership that I'm doing with ADOM. I'm actually leading the first ever office manager mastermind for ADOM. So it's going to be the first live mastermind, I think, in this industry under ADOM, specifically to help office managers on a daily and weekly and monthly basis live versus just watching videos and such. So if anybody has somebody on the team that should have some of this experience, I highly recommend checking out ADOM.
I don't think there's a team out there that couldn't benefit from the type of things you're talking about. And even if they've got it pretty well locked in, it's not going to stay that way. You got to cultivate that. So I think it's brilliant. So you heard it here. If you want to go to dentalmanagers.com. dentalmanagers.com and sign up today if you can. Pro Impressions Marketing is going to be there, so come stop by our booth and we can chat about how your marketing is going. And tell us, how can people engage with Front Office Rocks?
Yeah, and I also wanted to just throw this in there too. ADOM's not just the conference. So we have an actual online forum. So you can join ADOM at any point. There's an annual fee that I think is not enough, but then you can get in. There's training videos. And I've got some in there. All of the best consultants have videos in there. There's a dental managers group that you can go on Facebook. So there is support, even if you can't make it to the conference. And then same with Front Office Rocks. You can come find me online too. We're all everywhere now. So Front Office Rocks is online training website. I actually sold my business to a company called Uptime Health, and now they own Front Office Rocks, and I'm their main speaker and advocate for training. So I've got multiple companies that can help you. So connect with me, find me on all the social platforms, follow, ADOM and Front Office Rocks. And I'm sure if I'm doing it, there's probably something there that potentially can help you in your practice.
And that's our show today at Marketing Chairside. Thanks for watching, listening, liking, subscribing, and I want you to comment with your biggest phone foible. What was the story where you just screwed pooch on that phone? I want to hear it. And Laura, thanks for being here. Great job. High five.
All right. Oh,
There you go. Fist bump.
fist bump. We're better. There we go.
Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm gonna kick up here with my flip-flops and yeah.